Welcome back to our 1189 video series going through every chapter of the Bible. I have no idea what number this one is, but today we are in 1 Chronicles chapter 7. If you want this free PDF, you can download it on our website. Let's talk about our timeline. When did these events take place? Well, most of 1 Chronicles is about the reign of King David. This chapter specifically is one of our genealogy chapters. It's going to track the descendants of Israel across several centuries. Essentially from the time that they were slaves in Egypt until they settled in the Promised Land. Who are the individuals who are important in this chapter? Well, we're going to talk about Jacob, who God renamed Israel. He was the grandson of Abraham, who's a very famous Bible character. He had 12 sons, and his 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel. We're going to talk about some of those sons, specifically 6 of them. We're going to talk about Issachar, Benjamin, Naphtali, Manasseh, Ephraim, and Asher in this chapter. Our last key individual is Joshua. He led the Israelites after the death of Moses, and he was from the tribe of Ephraim. Going over to our map now, where did these events take place? Where were these tribes located? Each of the 6 tribes that we're going to discuss in this chapter received a portion of land within the Promised Land after the conquest in Joshua's day. You can see those portions of land highlighted in different shades of gray on our map with the name of the tribe in all caps and bold. Now, as we go over to page number 2, you'll notice that our outline section is pretty sparse for this chapter, and it's because how do you really summarize a list of names? You'll know what I'm talking about if you've already read the chapter for yourself. And so I've got it basically, I've got it under one section, limited genealogies of the tribes of Israel, and then I've got it subdivided out by the individual tribes. So 1 Chronicles 7 provides us a limited list of the descendants of 6 of the patriarchs of the Israelite nation. Verses 1 through 5 tell us about the descendants of Issachar. 6 through 12, the descendants of Benjamin. Now, Naphtali only gets one verse, verse 13. The descendants of Manasseh are found in verses 14 through 19. Verses 20 through 29, the descendants of Ephraim, who Joshua was one of them. And then verses 30 through 40, the end of the chapter, the descendants of Asher. So that's all that I've got for chapter 7. I think that's probably the best way to break it down, at least that I came up with. Now, how are you going to get an application from a chapter like this? I did come up with one, and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of proud of it. So let's talk about it. Application for today. Sometimes God's plans germinate and grow in unexpected places. Naphtali is only discussed in one verse of this chapter. The tribe certainly didn't receive the attention that Judah got or that Levi got in the previous chapters. Even as we move forward 1,000 years in Jesus' day, the Jews, who were the descendants of the people of Judah, they didn't think very much of people who were from the region of Naphtali. That region was known as Galilee. They didn't consider it to be of any significance, we find out from verses like John 7, verse 52. Most of the Jews probably thought that if God was going to do something great in their day, he would do it in Jerusalem, because Jerusalem was the Jews' most significant city. But Isaiah the prophet, who lived several hundred years after David, he prophesied that the Lord would honor the region of Naphtali and that a great light would one day shine from that area of the world. Isaiah chapter 9, verses 1 through 2. And sure enough, when Jesus started his ministry on earth, he started it in Capernaum, a city in the original territory of the tribe of Naphtali. So we see the work of Jesus, the work of God, the greatest work that God ever did on earth, beginning in a pretty insignificant town. And so here's the application I want you to take away from that. Just because you're not in the big city, just because you're not in the trending, the capital, just because you're not in the most significant country in the world, doesn't necessarily mean that God can't do incredible things where you're located. In fact, he has a tendency of using small places, out of the way places, unexpected places to start some of his great work. I can tell you how this has applied to my life. My wife and I have been trying to find a place to live and to settle, and I've kind of had this desire, like I need to move to a big city, significant city that speaks a language that's used all over the world, internationally, to be as useful as possible, because that's where the significant stuff happens, right in the big city. It's like, well, not necessarily, right? Maybe you can go to a smaller country, a smaller city, and do great work there, and God can do incredible things through that work, even though the rest of the world doesn't necessarily have its eyes on that location. So maybe you're stuck in a small town somewhere, or you're a small town, you serve in a church in a small town. God can do great things where you are. He did it in Galilee, in the territory of Naphtali. He can do it wherever you're located.